The Emergency Council Chamber of the Galactic Federation buzzed with an energy that hadn't been felt in over 3 centuries. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated atmospheric pods, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, hums, and telepathic whispers. At the center of the massive spherical room, a holographic display showed the outer rim of what humans called the Milky Way galaxy. Admiral Zektar of the Hegemony Fleet adjusted his breathing apparatus and studied the data streaming across his personal display. His scaled hands trembled slightly as he processed the information. The humans had done something unprecedented, something that sent shockwaves through every established power in the galaxy. 3 days ago, humanity had fired their first railgun. To most species in the galaxy, this might have seemed like a trivial technological advancement. After all, the Zephyrians had been using plasma cannons for millennia, and the crystalline vortex could manipulate matter at the molecular level. But those who understood the deeper implications of human engineering felt a chill run through their exoskeletons, fur, or whatever passed for skin on their homeworlds. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the UES Prometheus, humanity's first deep space exploration vessel. She watched as the test projectile continued its journey through the void, still accelerating despite being fired over 6 hours ago. The railgun mounted on the ship's spine was a masterpiece of human ingenuity, but, more importantly, it represented something that made every alien civilization pause in their expansion plans. Humans, it seemed, had figured out how to cheat physics in a way that no other species had managed in over 50,000 years of galactic civilization. The projectile wasn't just fast. It was impossibly fast, approaching speeds that should have been theoretical maximums, according to every known law of physics. Elena checked her readings again, certain there must be an error. The tungsten rod, barely the size of a telephone pole, was moving at 15% the speed of light and still accelerating. Across the galaxy, in the war rooms and strategy centers of every major power, the same calculations were being run over and over again. The energy requirements for such a weapon should have been astronomical. It should have required the power output of a small star just to achieve a fraction of what the humans had demonstrated. Yet their ship showed no signs of the massive energy expenditure that should have accompanied such a feat. High Admiral Thexval of the Dominion Navy had been alive for over 4 centuries. He had witnessed the rise and fall of 3 different galactic powers. He had seen weapons that could crack planets and shields that could withstand the fury of supernovas. But as he studied the human weapon test, his 4 hearts beat in an irregular rhythm that his species only experienced when faced with an existential threat. The humans had somehow created a weapon that operated outside the known constraints of galactic warfare. Every spaceship, every station, every planetary defense grid in the galaxy was designed around certain assumptions about energy, momentum, and the practical limits of projectile weapons. The humans had just shattered those assumptions like glass. Elena's communication console chimed with an incoming message from Earth Command. The message was brief, but carried the weight of history. Dr. Vasquez, prepare for immediate return to Earth. We've just received first contact protocols from 17 different alien civilizations. They want to talk. She stared at the message, then back at the readouts from their railgun test. The implications hit her like a physical blow. Humanity had been alone in the galaxy for as long as they had been reaching for the stars. No signs of intelligent life, no responses to their radio signals, no evidence that anyone else was out there. And now, within hours of their weapon test, multiple civilizations were suddenly eager to establish communication. They had been watching, they had been waiting, and now they were afraid. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Marcus Chun was having the same realization. He had spent his entire career in space, exploring dead systems and mapping empty regions of space. The idea that intelligent life had been observing humanity all along sent shivers down his spine. More troubling was the obvious conclusion. These civilizations had the technology to watch Earth from vast distances, yet they had chosen to remain hidden until now. The Railgun test had changed something fundamental. It had crossed some invisible line that made humanity too dangerous to ignore. Lieutenant Sarah Park, the ship's weapons officer, was still running diagnostics on the Railgun system. What she found defied her understanding of physics. The weapon wasn't consuming nearly enough energy for its output. In fact, according to her instruments, it was generating energy rather than consuming it. The Railgun was somehow tapping into something that human science had only theorized about: quantum vacuum energy, zero-point fields, the underlying structure of space-time itself. Humanity had stumbled upon a way to harness the fundamental forces of the universe in a manner that no other species had achieved. They had created a weapon that didn't just fire projectiles. It converted the very fabric of space into kinetic energy. Back on Earth, Dr. James Patterson, the lead physicist on the Railgun project, sat in stunned silence as he reviewed the test data. His life's work had been based on theoretical models that suggested such energy extraction was possible, but practically impossible to achieve. Yet somehow, the engineering team had built a device that made his wildest theories look conservative. The tungsten projectile was now moving at 23% the speed of light and showing no signs of deceleration. At this rate, it would reach the edge of the solar system in less than a day. More importantly, if the energy readings were correct, the Railgun could theoretically accelerate projectiles to near-light speed given enough time and distance. This meant that humanity could potentially strike targets across the galaxy with weapon systems that operated on principles no other civilization understood. They had effectively created the ultimate asymmetric advantage in galactic warfare. The communication from the alien civilizations made more sense now. Humanity wasn't being welcomed into the galactic community. They were being contained. The sudden flood of diplomatic overtures wasn't friendly contact. It was damage control. Elena felt a mixture of pride and terror as she contemplated humanity's position. They had achieved something remarkable, but they had also painted a target on their planet that could be seen from across the galaxy. Every military strategist in known space was now trying to figure out how to neutralize the human threat before it could develop further. The test had lasted only a few minutes, but its consequences would reshape the balance of power among the stars. Humanity had announced their arrival on the galactic stage not with words or exploration, but with a demonstration of power that made every established civilization recalculate their strategic positions. As Elena prepared for the journey back to Earth, she couldn't shake the feeling that they had just crossed a point of no return. The Railgun test had been intended as a simple technology demonstration. Instead, it had become humanity's declaration of independence from the hidden powers that had been watching them from the shadows. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human dominance was about to begin, whether the galaxy was ready for it or not. Ambassador Krell Knox materialized in the pristine white halls of the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, his advanced transportation technology making the journey from his cloaked ship seem instantaneous. Standing nearly 3 meters tall with crystalline skin that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, he represented the oldest continuous civilization in the galaxy. His species, the Archivists, had been documenting galactic history for over 100,000 years. For the first time in his millennium-long life, Krell Knox was nervous. Secretary General Maria Santos stood waiting for him in the assembly hall, flanked by representatives from every major nation on Earth. The humans looked small and fragile compared to the alien ambassador, but Krell Knox knew better than to judge them by their physical appearance. The species that had just demonstrated the ability to harness zero-point energy was anything but fragile. Dr. Patterson stood nearby, his tablet displaying the latest data from the Railgun test. The projectile had now reached 31% of light speed and was beginning to exhibit behaviors that challenged even their revised understanding of physics. It was apparently creating micro-distortions in space-time as it traveled, leaving a trail that their instruments could detect across vast distances. The implications were staggering. The humans hadn't just created a weapon. They had developed a technology that could fundamentally alter the structure of space itself. Krelnox accessed the collective memory banks of his species, searching through millennia of recorded galactic history. Only 3 times in the documented past had any species achieved technological breakthroughs of this magnitude. Each time, it had resulted in the complete reshaping of galactic civilization. The last occurrence had been over 25,000 years ago, when the ancient progenitors had developed faster-than-light travel. The progenitors were extinct now, destroyed by the very technology they had created. Secretary General Santos stepped forward, her expression carefully controlled despite the magnitude of the situation. Ambassador Krelnox, we appreciate your willingness to establish contact with humanity. Though I must admit, the timing of your arrival raises certain questions. The archivist's response came in the form of harmonic vibrations that the translation device converted into human speech. Secretary General Santos, my species has been observing your development for approximately 12,000 of your years. We have watched your progress with great interest, but recent events have necessitated direct intervention. Dr. Patterson looked up from his tablet, his face pale. The projectile just passed Neptune's orbit. At this rate, it will exit our solar system within 18 hours. And it's still accelerating. Santos felt a chill run down her spine. The weapon they had created as a defensive measure was about to become an interstellar projectile that could potentially strike targets light years away. Ambassador, are there inhabited systems in the path of our test projectile? Krelnox's crystalline features shifted in what might have been the equivalent of a grimace. The trajectory will take your projectile through the neutral zone between the hegemony and the Dominion territories. It will pass within 2 light hours of a major trade station. However, this is not our primary concern. Elena had just arrived from the Prometheus and was listening to the exchange from the back of the room. She stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol. What exactly is your primary concern, Ambassador? The archivist paused for a long moment, accessing memories that spanned geological ages. Dr. Vasquez, your species has achieved something that was thought to be impossible. You have created a stable interface with the quantum vacuum, allowing you to extract energy from the fundamental substrate of reality itself. This technology has been theorized by many civilizations, but none have successfully implemented it. General Harrison, the head of Earth Space Command, leaned forward. Are you saying that other species have tried to develop similar weapons? Not weapons, General Harrison. Power sources. The ability to tap zero-point energy represents unlimited clean power, instantaneous space travel, and control over matter and energy at the most fundamental level. It is the technology that separates primitive civilizations from truly advanced ones. Dr. Patterson's hands shook as he made calculations on his tablet. If the railgun is really extracting energy from quantum vacuum fluctuations, then, theoretically, there's no upper limit to the projectile's velocity. It could continue accelerating indefinitely as long as it has space to travel through. The implications of his statement hung heavy in the air. A weapon with no theoretical maximum velocity could potentially strike targets across the galaxy in a matter of months or years, rather than the millennia required by conventional spacecraft. Krelnox confirmed their fears with his next statement. Your test projectile is currently exhibiting properties that suggest it may achieve superluminal velocity within the next 72 hours. If this occurs, it will effectively become a causality weapon, capable of arriving at its destination before it was fired. Santos felt the weight of unintended consequences pressing down on her. Ambassador, are you saying we've created a weapon that can travel backward in time? Not precisely, but close enough to cause significant disruption to the causal structure of local space-time. This is why 17 civilizations have simultaneously initiated contact protocols. Your weapon represents an existential threat, not just to individual planets or fleets, but to the fundamental order of the galaxy. Elena stared at the data flowing across Dr. Patterson's tablet. The energy readings were off the charts, but more troubling was the pattern of quantum signatures the projectile was generating. It was creating a cascade effect in the quantum vacuum, potentially destabilizing the zero-point field across vast regions of space. General Harrison stood up abruptly. "Are you telling us that our defensive weapon test might accidentally damage the fabric of space itself?" Krellnox's crystalline form began to glow more brightly, indicating increased emotional resonance among his species. "General, your species has achieved in centuries what most civilizations require millions of years to develop. The progression from nuclear fission to zero-point energy manipulation typically takes evolutionary timescales. Humanity has compressed this development into a time frame that appears almost instantaneous from a galactic perspective." Dr. Patterson looked up from his calculations with an expression of dawning horror. "The acceleration curve is exponential. If our projections are correct, the projectile will reach light speed in approximately 16 hours. After that point, our physics models break down completely." Santos turned to the archivist ambassador. "What happened to the other civilizations that achieved similar technological breakthroughs?" The first species to harness zero-point energy became known as the Builders. They used their technology to construct massive installations throughout the galaxy before mysteriously vanishing. The second, the Shapers, attempted to use the technology to fundamentally alter the laws of physics in their local region of space. Their entire stellar cluster became uninhabitable, existing in a state of quantum uncertainty that persists to this day. Elena felt a cold realization wash over her. And the third civilization? The progenitors attempted to merge their consciousness with the quantum vacuum itself, believing they could transcend physical existence. They succeeded, in a sense. They became distributed across the fundamental structure of space-time, but they lost all individual identity and purpose in the process. They exist everywhere and nowhere, aware but unable to act or communicate. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had achieved a technological breakthrough that had historically led to the extinction or transformation of every species that had previously accomplished it. General Harrison broke the silence. "Ambassador, what are you proposing we do? We can't exactly recall the projectile at this point." Krellnox's form pulsed with complex patterns of light. "The Galactic Council has convened an emergency session. For the first time in recorded history, all 47 major civilizations have agreed to a joint intervention. Ships from across the galaxy are converging on your solar system." Santos felt her heart skip a beat. "An invasion fleet?" "Not an invasion, Secretary General. A containment protocol. If your weapon achieves superluminal velocity and begins destabilizing space-time, the combined fleets will attempt to create a quantum isolation barrier around your solar system. This would preserve the rest of the galaxy, but would effectively quarantine humanity indefinitely." Elena stepped forward, her mind racing through the possibilities. "There might be another option. If the Railgun can extract energy from the quantum vacuum, perhaps it can also be used to stabilize it. We could potentially create a controlled deceleration field that would bring the projectile to a safe velocity." Dr. Patterson looked up from his tablet with renewed hope. "That's brilliant, Elena. If we can reverse the polarity of the zero-point extraction field, we might be able to create a quantum drag effect instead of acceleration." Krellnox observed the humans with something approaching admiration. Even faced with potential extinction, they were attempting to solve the problem rather than simply accepting their fate. "Dr. Vasquez, such an approach has never been attempted. The risks are considerable." General Harrison stood up with determination. "With respect, Ambassador, the risks of doing nothing are even greater. If your people are preparing to quarantine us indefinitely, we have nothing to lose by trying." Santos nodded in agreement. "How long do we have before the galactic fleets arrive?" "Approximately 36 hours, assuming they maintain their current approach vectors." Elena looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. They were scared, certainly, but also defiant. Faced with the prospect of eternal isolation or potential extinction, they were choosing to fight for a third option. Then, we have 36 hours to solve a problem that has defeated every other civilization in galactic history. She turned to Dr. Patterson. Let's get back to the lab. We have work to do. The underground laboratory beneath CERN had been transformed into humanity's last hope in less than 24 hours. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood before a massive holographic display showing real-time readings from their runaway projectile, which had now reached 87% of light speed and was creating visible distortions in space-time as it traveled. Around her, the brightest minds from every major university and research institution on Earth worked frantically to solve an impossible problem. They had 17 hours before the galactic fleet arrived, and their calculations suggested the projectile would breach the light barrier in less than 12 hours. Dr. Patterson wiped sweat from his brow as he studied the quantum field equations scrolling across his workstation. Elena, I think I've found something. The zero-point field isn't uniform throughout space. There are natural variations, almost like currents in an ocean. If we can map these variations accurately enough, we might be able to predict where the field density is highest. Elena hurried over to examine his work. And if we know where the field is densest, we can calculate the most effective position for our deceleration array. Professor Chen Wei from Beijing University looked up from her calculations. The power requirements are still astronomical. Even if we can reverse the polarity of the zero-point extraction, we need enough energy to overcome the momentum of a near-light-speed projectile. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had been working on the original Railgun project, suddenly straightened up at her workstation. Wait, what if we're thinking about this wrong? We're not trying to stop the projectile directly. We're trying to modify the space-time it's traveling through. Elena felt a spark of inspiration. Explain. The projectile is creating a wake in the quantum vacuum as it travels. That wake is actually helping to accelerate it further by reducing resistance in front of it. If we can disrupt that wake pattern, the projectile should encounter natural quantum resistance again. Dr. Patterson's eyes lit up with understanding. And if we time it right, we can create a cascading deceleration effect. The projectile would essentially break itself by encountering undisturbed quantum fields. Above ground, Ambassador Krelnox stood in the UN Assembly Hall, providing updates to both the human leadership and the approaching galactic fleet. The crystalline being's form was flickering more rapidly now, indicating increased stress among his species. Secretary General Santos studied the tactical display showing the positions of the incoming alien ships. Ambassador, can you tell us anything about the capabilities of these fleets? Are we looking at a peaceful containment operation or preparation for war? Secretary General, the fleets carry both scientific equipment for quantum isolation and sufficient firepower to sterilize your entire solar system, if necessary. The galactic powers are prepared for any eventuality. General Harrison examined the fleet compositions with a professional eye. 47 different civilizations, but they're maintaining distinct formation patterns. This isn't a unified command structure. They're cooperating, but they don't trust each other. Santos realized the implications immediately, which means if we can solve this crisis ourselves, we might be in a position to negotiate rather than surrender. Meanwhile, Captain Marcus Chun aboard the UES Prometheus was coordinating with Earth's hastily assembled space fleet. Every ship capable of mounting a railgun system had been retrofitted in the past 18 hours, creating an improvised network of quantum field generators. Control, this is Prometheus. We have 16 ships in position along the projected deceleration corridor. Each ship is reporting ready status on their modified railgun arrays. Elena's voice crackled through the comm system from the underground lab. Marcus, we're uploading the final targeting parameters now. Remember, this isn't about hitting the projectile. We need to create synchronized quantum field disruptions in the space it's about to travel through. Lieutenant Sarah Park, now serving as the weapons coordination officer for the entire human fleet, studied the intricate timing requirements. Dr. Vasquez, we have a synchronization window of less than 3 nanoseconds. If even one ship fires outside that window, the interference pattern could make the problem worse instead of better. Understood, Sarah. We've accounted for relativistic effects and quantum uncertainty in the calculations. The timing system will automatically adjust for your position and velocity when you receive the firing command. Dr. Patterson looked up from his final calculations with a mixture of hope and terror. Elena, if this works, we'll have demonstrated controlled manipulation of space-time itself. If it fails, we might accidentally tear a hole in reality. Elena stared at the countdown timer, showing 11 hours and 37 minutes until projected lightspeed breach. James, we passed the point of safe failure about 20 hours ago. Now we can only choose between different kinds of catastrophic risk. The holographic display updated with new data from deep space monitoring stations. The projectile was now creating visible gravitational lenses as it traveled, its passage bending light and distorting the apparent positions of stars behind it. More troubling, it was beginning to emit exotic particles that shouldn't exist according to standard physics. Professor Chen Wei ran up to Elena with a tablet full of particle physics data. Elena, look at this. The projectile isn't just traveling through space anymore. It's beginning to phase in and out of normal space-time. Some of these particle signatures suggest it's briefly existing in parallel dimensions. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. How briefly? Microseconds at a time, but the duration is increasing. If it fully phases out of our dimension while traveling at near light speed, we'll have no way to affect it at all. Dr. Kim looked up from her workstation with pale face. And if it phases back in while traveling faster than light, the energy release could destroy everything within several light years. The weight of the situation pressed down on everyone in the lab. They weren't just trying to save humanity anymore. They were trying to prevent a catastrophe that could sterilize entire star systems. Elena walked to the central control console and activated the communication link to the human fleet. All ships, this is Dr. Vasquez. I need you to understand what we're attempting. We're going to try to perform the first controlled manipulation of fundamental space-time structure in galactic history. The risks are enormous, but the alternative is unacceptable. Captain Chen's voice responded immediately. Doctor, every person in this fleet volunteered for this mission, knowing we might not survive it. We're ready. Ambassador Krell Knox materialized in the laboratory, his advanced transportation technology allowing him to observe the human efforts directly. Dr. Vasquez, I have been monitoring your progress. The archivist analysis suggests your approach has approximately a 23% probability of success. Elena turned to face the alien ambassador. And what's the probability of success for the Galactic Fleet's containment protocol? Approximately 67% for containment, but with 100% certainty of permanent human isolation. Dr. Patterson looked up from his calculations. Elena, we're as ready as we can be. The field equations are loaded into all ship systems, targeting parameters are locked, and timing synchronization is active. Elena studied the readouts one final time. The projectile was now at 94% of light speed, and showing increasingly erratic behavior as it interacted with the quantum vacuum in ways that human science was only beginning to understand. She activated the fleet communication system. All ships, prepare for Operation Quantum Break. On my mark, you will fire your modified railgun systems according to the uploaded parameters. Remember, we're not shooting to destroy. We're shooting to heal the fabric of space itself. The countdown reached T-minus 60 seconds. Elena could see the stress on every face around her. They were about to attempt something that no civilization in galactic history had successfully accomplished. 30 seconds, she announced. All ships report ready status. One by one, the confirmation came through. 16 ships, each positioned at precisely calculated points along the projectile's path, each loaded with specially modified quantum field generators instead of traditional projectiles. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark. Across the solar system, 16 railgun systems fired simultaneously, launching not physical projectiles, but concentrated bursts of inverted zero-point energy designed to repair the damage their original weapon had caused. The next few seconds would determine whether humanity had saved the galaxy or destroyed it. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Across the solar system, space itself seemed to ripple like water as the 16 quantum field generators discharged their inverted zero-point energy bursts. The holographic displays in the CERN laboratory flickered and distorted as reality itself bent around the projectile's path. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched the readings with her heart pounding as exotic energy signatures cascaded across her instruments. For a moment that felt like an eternity, the laws of physics seemed suspended. Then, gradually, order began to reassert itself. Elena! Dr. Patterson shouted over the alarms that had begun sounding throughout the facility. The projectile is responding. Velocity is decreasing. On the main display, the impossible projectile that had been approaching light speed began to slow. But the deceleration wasn't smooth. The tungsten rod was experiencing forces that made it skip like a stone across the quantum vacuum, each impact creating brilliant flashes of energy that were visible from Earth with the naked eye. Professor Chun Wei stared at her particle physics readouts in amazement. The exotic particle emissions are stabilizing. Whatever we did, it's working. But Captain Marcus Chun aboard the Prometheus had a different perspective. Control, this is Prometheus. We're detecting massive space-time distortions throughout the solar system. It looks like our quantum field modifications created a chain reaction. Elena felt a chill of fear. What kind of chain reaction, Marcus? The quantum vacuum isn't just stabilizing around the projectile. It's reorganizing itself. The zero-point field density is shifting throughout the entire solar system. Ambassador Krell Knox, who had been monitoring the situation from the laboratory, suddenly began glowing more intensely. Dr. Vasquez, my species' deep sensors are detecting unprecedented quantum signatures. You have not simply slowed your projectile. You have created a localized region of controlled quantum vacuum manipulation. Elena stared at the ambassador. What does that mean in practical terms? It means you have accidentally discovered how to create stable zero-point energy fields on a massive scale. The region of space around your solar system now exists in a state of quantum enhancement that makes faster-than-light travel significantly more efficient. Dr. Patterson looked up from his calculations with wide eyes. Elena, if the ambassador is right, we've just turned our solar system into the galactic equivalent of a superhighway. Any ship entering our local space would be able to travel faster and more efficiently than anywhere else in the galaxy. The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. Humanity had been trying to prevent becoming a threat to galactic civilization, but they had accidentally created something even more significant, the most valuable piece of real estate in the galaxy. Lieutenant Sarah Park's voice crackled through the comm system from her position on one of the fleet ships. Control, we're detecting massive fleet movements from the approaching alien forces. Their formation patterns are changing. Elena switched to the tactical display and felt her blood run cold. The 47 different alien fleets, which had been maintaining careful distances from each other during their approach to Earth, were now maneuvering for position relative to the enhanced quantum field around the solar system. Secretary General Santos's voice came through the emergency communication channel. Dr. Vasquez, we need immediate analysis. Are we looking at a diplomatic opportunity or an invasion scenario? Elena studied the quantum field readings and the alien fleet positions with growing understanding. Secretary General, I think we're looking at something entirely new. We've accidentally created the galactic equivalent of finding oil in your backyard. Except this oil makes space travel 10 times more efficient. Ambassador Krell Knox confirmed her fears. Dr. Vasquez, the hegemony battle fleet, is moving to secure the outer edge of your enhanced quantum field. The Dominion forces are taking positions on the opposite side. The other civilizations are arranging themselves according to their alliance structures. Elena realized they were witnessing the beginning of what could become the largest military confrontation in galactic history, with Earth sitting at the center of it all. General Harrison's voice cut through the communication channels. All units, this is Earth Command. We are detecting weapons charging signatures from multiple alien fleets. Recommend immediate defensive posture. But Dr. Kim had been analyzing the quantum field data and made a startling discovery. Elena, look at this. The enhanced quantum field isn't just making space travel more efficient. It's creating a natural defensive barrier. Any ship attempting to fire high-energy weapons within the field would destabilize their own systems. Elena studied the data with growing excitement. Sarah, are you saying that our accidental quantum field modification has made conventional space warfare impossible in our local region? Exactly. The enhanced zero-point field would interfere with plasma weapons, particle beams, and even nuclear explosives. The only weapons that would function reliably would be kinetic projectiles at relatively low velocities. Captain Chen's voice came through with barely controlled amazement. Control, we're getting communication requests from 17 different alien fleets simultaneously. They all want to negotiate. Elena looked around the laboratory at her exhausted colleagues. They had started the day trying to prevent a catastrophe and had ended up fundamentally altering the balance of power in the galaxy. Again, Ambassador Krellnox approached Elena with what appeared to be respect in his crystalline features. Dr. Vasquez, in attempting to solve the crisis created by your Railgun test, humanity has demonstrated 3 capabilities that no other civilization has achieved, which are: first, controlled extraction of zero-point energy. Second, manipulation of space-time structure on a solar system scale. Third, the creation of a stable quantum field that enhances faster-than-light travel while neutralizing advanced weapon systems. Elena felt the weight of unintended consequences settling on her shoulders. Ambassador, we didn't intend any of this. We were just trying to clean up our mistake. Intent is irrelevant now, Dr. Vasquez. The 47 civilizations approaching your system represent every major power in the galaxy. They are not coming to punish humanity for your technological breakthrough. They are coming to negotiate access to it. Dr. Patterson looked up from his analysis of the quantum field. Elena, there's something else. The field is self-sustaining and appears to be slowly expanding. At current rates, it will encompass the entire local star cluster within a few centuries. Elena stared at the projection, showing the expanding quantum enhancement field. Humanity had gone from being an unknown species to potentially controlling the most important strategic resource in galactic history, all within the span of a few days. General Harrison's voice came through the communication system again. Dr. Vasquez, we're receiving formal diplomatic requests from the Hegemony, the Dominion, the Archivist Collective, and 34 other major civilizations. They all want to establish permanent embassies on Earth. Elena turned to Ambassador Krellnox. Ambassador, what happens now? How does the galaxy typically handle a situation like this? Dr. Vasquez, there has never been a situation like this. No single species has ever controlled access to technology that could revolutionize galactic civilization. The closest historical parallel would be when the ancient progenitors developed faster-than-light travel, but even they shared the technology freely with other species. Elena looked at the tactical display, showing the positioning of the alien fleets. They were maintaining careful distances from each other, but their formation suggested they were prepared for either negotiation or war, depending on humanity's decision. And if we refuse to share our technology, then you would likely face a war with every major power in the galaxy simultaneously. However, if you offer controlled access to your enhanced quantum fields, humanity could become the most influential species in galactic politics overnight. Elena realized that humanity stood at a crossroads that would define their species for millennia to come. The Railgun test, that was supposed to be a simple weapons demonstration, had accidentally elevated them to a position of power that no single civilization had ever held. The next decisions they made would determine whether humanity became the leader of a new galactic age or the target of the largest war in recorded history. Dr. Patterson looked up from his workstation with a mixture of excitement and terror. "Elena, I've been running projections on the quantum field expansion. If it continues at current rates, and we can learn to control it properly, we could potentially enhance faster-than-light travel efficiency throughout the entire galaxy within 1,000 years. Elena stared at the implications of his statement. Humanity had accidentally discovered the key to revolutionizing galactic civilization itself. The question now was whether they were wise enough to use that power responsibly, and whether the galaxy would give them the chance to find out. 3 months had passed since the day that changed everything. The Sol system had been transformed into the bustling center of galactic politics, with massive space stations from dozens of different civilizations orbiting Earth at the edge of the enhanced quantum field. What had once been humanity's lonely outpost in an empty cosmos was now the most important location in known space. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Galactic Cooperation Station, watching as ships from across the galaxy came and went through the quantum enhancement field that her team had accidentally created. The irony wasn't lost on her that humanity's greatest mistake had become their greatest achievement. The enhanced soul zone, as it had come to be known, had proven even more valuable than initially projected. Ships traveling through the quantum-enhanced space could achieve faster-than-light speeds that were previously theoretical, while the field's interference with high-energy weapons had created the galaxy's first truly neutral territory in recorded history. Ambassador Krell approached Elena at the observation window, his crystalline form now familiar after months of cooperation. "Dr. Vasquez, the latest reports from the outer colonies are remarkable. The efficiency improvements from quantum-enhanced travel routes are revolutionizing trade throughout the galaxy." Elena nodded, watching a massive hegemony freighter exit the quantum field at speeds that would have been impossible just months earlier. "Ambassador, I still have trouble believing this all started with a weapons test that went wrong." "Perhaps it did not go wrong, Dr. Vasquez. Perhaps your species was simply ready for the next step in galactic evolution. The enhanced soul zone had become more than just a strategic resource. Under the Earth Accords that had been signed 6 weeks earlier, humanity had agreed to maintain the quantum field as neutral territory in exchange for full membership in the Galactic Council and access to technologies from across known space. The result was an unprecedented period of cooperation between civilizations that had been rivals for millennia. Dr. Patterson approached from the station's main laboratory, his face showing the exhaustion of someone who had been working to understand technologies beyond human comprehension. "Elena, we've made another breakthrough with the archivist quantum mathematics. We think we can create smaller, controlled quantum enhancement fields around other star systems." Elena felt a familiar mixture of excitement and apprehension. "James, are you suggesting we can replicate what happened here deliberately?" "Not exactly replicate, but we can create localized quantum field enhancements that would improve faster-than-light efficiency in key star systems throughout the galaxy. Think of it as building a superhighway network through space itself." Ambassador Krellnox's form brightened with interest. "Dr. Patterson, such a network would reduce travel times between distant civilizations from decades to mere months. The implications for galactic unity would be extraordinary." Elena looked out at the bustling traffic of alien ships around Earth. The success of the enhanced soul zone had already begun changing galactic civilization in ways they were only beginning to understand. Trade routes that had been economically unfeasible were now profitable. Civilizations that had been isolated by vast distances were now neighbors. Cultural exchange was happening at a rate that was reshaping societies across the galaxy. Captain Marcus Chin's voice came through the station communication system. "Dr. Vasquez, we're receiving reports from our deep space monitoring stations. The original Railgun projectile has finally come to a complete stop approximately 40 light-years from Earth. Elena felt a moment of concern. Any problems, Marcus? Actually, no. It seems to have created another small quantum enhancement field around its final position. The Dominion Exploration Fleet investigating the area reports that the projectile has somehow evolved into a stable zero-point energy generator. Dr. Kim looked up from her workstation with amazement. Elena, if a single tungsten rod can evolve into a stable quantum generator over time, what might happen to the deliberately designed enhancement fields we're planning to create? Elena realized they were still discovering the long-term implications of their accidental breakthrough. Each answer seemed to lead to new questions about the fundamental nature of space, time, and energy. Professor Chan Wei approached with a tablet full of data from the newest experiments. Elena, I've been analyzing the quantum field interactions with living organisms. It appears that prolonged exposure to enhanced zero-point fields actually has beneficial effects on biological systems. What kind of beneficial effects? Enhanced cellular regeneration, improved neural function, increased resistance to radiation and disease. The quantum field isn't just improving space travel. It's creating an environment that's actively beneficial to life itself. Elena stared at the implications. The enhanced soul zone wasn't just revolutionizing galactic transportation and politics, it was potentially improving the health and longevity of every living being within its influence. Ambassador Krelnox accessed his species' historical archives with visible excitement. Dr. Vasquez, this explains certain mysteries from our ancient records. The regions of space where the progenitors once traveled still show traces of enhanced biological activity. We had assumed these were natural phenomena, but now we understand they were the lasting effects of quantum field manipulation. Elena felt a moment of profound realization. Ambassador, are you saying that the progenitor's disappearance might not have been a catastrophe? What if they deliberately enhanced the quantum fields throughout their territory and then evolved beyond the need for physical existence? It is possible. The archivist's deepest memories suggest that the progenitors spoke of joining the fundamental structure of reality itself in their final communications. We interpreted this as poetic metaphor, but perhaps it was literal truth. Dr. Patterson looked up from his calculations with a mixture of wonder and concern. Elena, if we continue developing quantum field enhancement technology, are we potentially following the same path as the progenitors? Elena considered the question seriously. James, maybe that's not something to fear. Maybe evolution beyond physical limitations isn't extinction, but transformation into something greater. General Harrison's voice came through the communication system with barely controlled excitement. Dr. Vasquez, we're getting reports from the outer colonies that the quantum field expansion is accelerating. The enhancement zone now extends nearly 3 light-years from Earth and shows no signs of slowing. Elena realized that humanity had set in motion changes that would continue long after their civilization had evolved beyond recognition. The enhanced soul zone was becoming the foundation for a new kind of galactic community, one based on cooperation rather than conflict, abundance rather than scarcity. Lieutenant Sarah Park, now serving as the coordinator for human-alien fleet operations, approached with updates from across the galaxy. Dr. Vasquez, we're receiving requests from 43 different civilizations to establish quantum enhancement fields in their home systems. The Galactic Council has approved a joint development program with Earth as the lead coordinator. Elena looked around at her colleagues, many of whom had been working together since that first terrifying day when their simple weapons test had threatened to tear apart space-time itself. Now they were being asked to revolutionize galactic civilization deliberately and systematically. Ambassador Krelnox moved closer to Elena with what she had learned to recognize as a species' expression of profound respect. Dr. Vasquez, your people have achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. You have taken a catastrophic accident and transformed it into the foundation for a new age of galactic cooperation and advancement. Elena smiled as she watched another group of alien ships enter the quantum field, their crews likely experiencing the wonder of enhanced faster-than-light travel for the first time. Ambassador, I think we've learned something important about humanity. When we make mistakes, we don't just try to fix them. We try to make them into something better than what we originally intended. And that, Dr. Vasquez, may be why your species was chosen by the universe to hold this responsibility. Elena looked out at the enhanced soul zone, now stretching across multiple star systems and continuing to grow. Somewhere in that vast field of modified space-time, the original tungsten projectile continued its journey, no longer a weapon, but a seed of transformation spreading across the galaxy. Humanity had set out to test a railgun and had accidentally become the architects of galactic evolution itself. As Elena watched ships from across the galaxy working together in the neutral space that her species had created, she realized that some mistakes were too important to be called accidents. They were destiny disguised as technological progress. The age of isolated civilizations was ending. The age of galactic unity, built on a foundation of human ingenuity and quantum enhancement, was just beginning. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, other civilizations not yet known to the galactic community were probably developing their own technologies, preparing for their own moment of contact. Elena smiled at the thought. When those first contact moments came, they would happen in a galaxy that had been fundamentally transformed by humanity's willingness to turn a catastrophic mistake into revolutionary opportunity. The railgun that had threatened to destroy galactic civilization had instead become the tool that united it. Sometimes the most important discoveries came not from careful planning, but from the courage to face the consequences of unintended actions and transform them into something greater than anyone had dared to imagine.